This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
There it is. Hi, everybody. Oop, that's loud. Too soft, too loud, just right. Just like Goldilocks. Hi, everybody. It is the After Party Live on a Waterfall Wednesday, and we're going to Hungary. I kept finding more and more and more waterfalls, and I think you're going to enjoy the waterfalls today. Hopefully, it'll bring you a little bit of peace. An update on the voting. I know you guys have been voting because I can see the results, and I'm so impressed by how everyone is rallying together to push this show over the top. This is amazing. Here are the current results. The After Party Live sits at 4%. Just crazy, unexpected, lovely results so far. The voting continues until July 1st. But right now, this show, the After Party Live, is, of course, thanks to Clark Reed, nominated for Audio Caster of the Year, and sits in fourth place. I think fourth place is great. I mean, I don't want to not be ambitious or anything, but that's better than I thought we'd do. So this is fantastic. It's funny, I have a friend named Steve Fox, not the same Steve Fox from the old school streaming station. But I keep saying, I'm going to beat Steve Fox, and now we have. So with 3,121 votes and 4% of the vote, the After Party Live has fourth place, achieved fourth place. Aaron Axelson is the next target with 11,496 votes, 16%. That's kind of a long way. I mean, we do have until July 1st, but you have to keep thinking that the folks that are attached to those shows are going to keep voting as well. Anyway, if you're interested in voting, you can vote as many times as you want, as many times a day as you want, all the way up until July 1st. And I will put the link in the chat so that if you are so inclined, you can pop over, vote a couple times, and away you go. So there it is. And if you don't want to, then that's okay too. No worries. Thank you so much to Jim Slayton throwing in a $5 super sticker. Jim, look at you. And I love the picture. That looks great. Look at that with the dogs. You look very regal in that shot. Very cool. Yesterday on the After Party Live, Wes made a contribution and suggested that I should look into this story. And it's a story that I've been kind of following about the developments in the fight against pancreatic cancer. So important enough, I think, to make the first story of the show today. And there's a couple different things going on. One is the new mRNA vaccine that is showing lasting results in the early trials against pancreatic cancer. They say more research is needed here, but nearly all of the patients who responded to this personalized vaccine are alive 6 years later, and they had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So I think that's extremely promising. The other is that there's a new targeted pill that is also showing some promise as well. There is evidence that is also making headway. So two different issues, two different kind of breakthroughs on what was once thought to be a disease that, once you got this diagnosis and that's it. Not necessarily anymore. It used to be that fewer than 13% of patients diagnosed with pancreatic cancer would survive 5 years after the diagnosis. And then if it spread, it was closer to 6 months. Diagnosis to death, 6 months. That was the way it was. Not anymore. If you catch it early, surgery can help, but recurrence was the rule rather than the exception, they say. So now we've got these two still experimental strategies that are giving some really promising early results and changing those numbers. One is this personalized mRNA vaccine. They start with your DNA and your tumor, and they build it from scratch. So it's It's just for this whatever person has been diagnosed, a very personalized approach. They say it's keeping immune cells on alert against pancreatic cancer for more than 3 years in a small trial. And then the other is this targeted antibody. It's already been granted accelerated FDA approval. I mean, why not, right? If it was a death sentence, what do you have to lose? This one shrinks tumors by a rare but they say actionable genetic alteration. So while neither of these is a cure, this is good forward motion on this. This is very promising. So the back to the mRNA vaccine. It's called autogene cevumeran, and it was developed between BioNTech and researchers at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And it works on this, what they say call as a principle borrowed from the COVID mRNA playbook, but it's applied differently. So instead of encoding a viral protein, each dose encodes up to 20 neoantigens, which are abnormal proteins produced by mutations, and those are unique to an individual patient's tumor and they are absent from healthy tissues. So the idea behind the vaccine is to train your immune system's T cells to recognize and destroy any cancer cells that are displaying those proteins, especially the little microscopic ones that linger after they do the surgery. They say in a phase 1 trial, patients who had undergone surgical removal of pancreatic ductal adenocarcinoma received the checkpoint inhibitor, followed by the personalized vaccine, and then a chemo regimen. Initial results published in Nature in 2023 show roughly half of vaccinated patients mounted a strong, measurable T cell response to their tumor specific neoantigens. And those responders had significantly longer recurrence free survival than non responders. They did a follow up analysis in 2025, also published in Nature, confirming that vaccine induced CD8 plus T cells were not fading. At a median follow up of just over 3 years, the immune cells remained detectable and functional in all responders. And that's a cancer where most recurrences happen within the first 2 years after surgery. So that's a huge length of time for this to still be working and still be effective. This other advance against pancreatic cancer kind of goes at it in a different way. The FDA has granted accelerated approval to, and this is a kind of a complicated name, it's zenocutuzumab. It's called Bizengri. This is for adults with advanced unresectable or metastatic pancreatic adenocarcinoma harboring a certain gene fusion who've already had one line of therapy. The NRG1 fusion patients, it's a rare occurrence. It happens in about 0.2 to 0.5% of pancreatic cancers. But when present, this type of cancer hijacks a signaling pathway to fuel tumor growth. And this drug is a bispecific antibody engineered to bind simultaneously to the receptors on the cell surface, blocking the abnormal signaling loop that these fusions exploit. So, another huge success for people with this specific rare type of pancreatic cancer as well. The FDA's accelerated pathway allows approval based on surrogate endpoints, such as objective response rate and duration of response, that are likely to predict a clinical benefit. Now, while both of these treatments still have some open-ended questions, let's weigh the excitement over these advances. It's still pretty exciting news, I think. They have a phase 2 trial underway for the vaccine plus the standard treatment. And then there's accelerated approval for this medication. So the uh, patients and families that are dealing with these developments are grabbing onto these medical breakthroughs because, we have these now. What's next? Really exciting. So thanks to Wes for bringing that up. Some animal stories, some feel-good animal stories. Look at that little face. That's a Tasmanian devil. And this creature escaped a wildlife park in Australia, caused all kinds of trouble. They had to use thermal imaging drones and tracking dogs in Queensland, Australia, where Glenn will be taking us next week on our Travel Tuesday trip, after this Tasmanian devil escaped from a wildlife park. 2-year-old Tasmanian devil named Mary that escaped from her enclosure Tuesday morning. The park's curator said Mary's means of escape are still a bit of a mystery. They don't know how she did it. They think that she took an abnormally large leap and breached her quarantine area. They were looking for her a second day today. They had sniffer dogs and thermal imaging drones brought in to search the area of the park. They think she's probably staying close to the facility, but there's a lot of natural bushland surrounding this area. They say she's probably a little scared because it's all still new to her, and maybe she found a little hiding spot somewhere, but they're looking for Mary. Tasmanian devil. The 4-foot long lizards that they are contending with in the state of Georgia are a problem. The Argentinian temu is appearing in multiple spots in this state. And wildlife experts are asking the residents in Georgia to be on the lookout because the tegu is not native and it's becoming a nuisance there. This black and white lizard kind of resembles a monitor species. They can weigh upwards of 10 pounds, 4 feet long. They eat eggs, small animals, fruit, and vegetables, and they're very prolific. One female produces 35 eggs every year. So you can see that it's a problem if you had a pet, let it loose, and then boom, there's now Georgia is a place where there's tegu lizards all over the place. They hatch during the summer between June and July. So the thinking is that people in Georgia have a decent chance of spotting a tegu in the near future. They still aren't sure exactly how these animals were introduced to Georgia, probably by exotic pet owners. That's the most logical explanation. But they did get a lot of reports of sightings. These animals are concentrated in southeastern Georgia's Toombs and Tatnall counties. They have a lack of predators, so the worry is that the population of tegu lizards is going to explode. These are non-native wild species. Trapping and hunting tegus is legal in Georgia throughout the year. Still, they warn hunters against coming into direct contact with these lizards. They're not particularly aggressive or dangerous, but they can carry exotic parasites and harmful bacteria, including salmonella. So if you see one in Georgia, you're supposed to call the Department of Natural Resources. And Georgia's not the only state dealing with this. Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, even Texas have reported some wayward tegu sightings over the recent years. A happier story. And this little weasel is an orphaned baby long-tailed weasel in Southern California. The weasel was rescued, as you can see here, being fed by syringe at a wildlife center. Took 2 months to help this weasel become self-sufficient to the point where it could be re-released or released into the wild. The baby weasel was found alone on a trail in Riverside County in March. Her eyes were still closed. So officials took her in, She becomes the youngest long-tailed weasel admitted to the Humane Society. She was in critical condition when she arrived, required around-the-clock specialized care, feeding, daily medication because she had some ringworm, and they worked really hard not to make her too comfortable around humans. When she opened her eyes after 10 days of intense monitoring, they were very happy. They transported her to the Ramona Wildlife Center. She spent another 72 days there in a small mammal habitat where she learned the skills she would need to survive. And then May 31st, she was released into the wild in the Ramona area of San Diego County, and off she goes into the world. Very cool. They did a lot of work with that weasel to get her back into the wilds. Really happy to see that happen. Okay, for the math aficionados among us, here's a math story for you. Mathematicians have been working on this for a long time, 80 years now. In 1946, mathematician Paul Erdos posed this unit distance problem and then suggested a strategy. Now, AI has done it better. So the theory that Erdos first posed, or the question that he posed, was this back in 1946. Place any number of dots on a two-dimensional plane like a piece of paper, measure the distance between each pair, and if you rearrange the dots, how many pairs can be positioned exactly the same distance apart? How many pairs of dots could be positioned exactly the same distance apart? So Erdos said the best way to do this to maximize the total pairs is to draw them in a grid-like arrangement. He speculated the number of pairs could only be slightly higher than the number of dots. And so for 80 years, mathematicians thought, well, that sounds right. Yeah. But the question was posited to AI, and OpenAI recently announced that one of its internal models identified a strategy to produce more pairs than the arrangement proposed by Erdos. It's the unique, interesting result produced autonomously by AI. It's called the planar unit distance problem. And it was mentioned multiple times in Erdos's lectures. He even offered money for a proof or disproof of his theory. The AI model apparently is being called a breakthrough. Everyone in math losing their minds over this, according to Ben Cohen of the Wall Street Journal. OpenAI's models attempted to tackle the problem before. GPT-5 found solutions to 10 previously unsolved Erdos problems. In reality, they say the model identified existing solutions that were buried in the literature. He had listed those problems as open, but it only means that he was personally unaware of the paper which solved it. This time, though, its OpenAI appears to have been more careful and reviewed the breakthrough. The breakthrough was reviewed and reflected on. OpenAI's strategy involves arranging the dots using techniques from a branch of math called algebraic number theory. They drew on the same approach to find a better solution. There's a scientist, a mathematician, Will Sawin at Princeton. He said, this was a surprise because I thought about this problem quite a bit. Oh, this is from Mr. Bloom. He says he thought about this quite a bit. And he said, once you know that something might be possible, you're willing to try a bit harder to get it to work. OpenAI, though, published a rewritten summary of the model's chain of thought, along with a proof rewritten by mathematicians. The human still plays a vital role in discussing, digesting, and improving this proof and exploring these consequences, according to mathematicians. Yeah, they're still vetting it all, but it looks like AI beat humans in this clever solution. Have you heard of sail drones? That's what they look like. There's a bunch of them out there. They're heading into hurricanes to study hurricanes for the sixth year in a row. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, has this fleet of remote vessels. They call them sail drones. There's 10 of them. They are unmanned surface vehicles that are put out during hurricane season to support the mission to forecast hurricanes. They've been doing this since 2021. The multi-year mission between Sail Drone and NOAA is said to be helping to improve our understanding of how hurricanes intensify when they strengthen rapidly before landfall. And every storm they observe gives them more data to evaluate, improve prediction models, critical for increasing forecast confidence, extending warning lead times, and strengthening America's preparedness for high impact weather events. So these things are floating out there. They're strategically placed in the Caribbean Sea, Western tropical, subtropical Atlantic Ocean as well, and the so-called Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, from July to November. They're operating in and around storms to deliver meteorological data in real time as well. They said they're still trying to, the forecasters and scientists, still trying to get themselves in front of as many hurricanes as possible to collect data from within different parts of the storm to help scientists better understand why some storms rapidly intensify. And at a time when research is being cut, especially ocean research being cut, it's good to see sail drones still have a place and they're still trying to figure it out. That's good. I have a story about archaeologists excavating a monastery in Spain, and they identified the remains of a 14th century queen. But while they were doing that, they said, uh-oh, multiple skeletons appear to be buried in the wrong graves. There is the queen right there, the queen that was identified. She is Elisenda of Montcada. There was supposed to be a medieval knight buried there as well, but the wrong bones apparently are in there. I don't know exactly how they know this. Elisenda of Montcada was the queen of the kingdom of Aragon. She died in 1364, and she was buried in what's called a marble sepulcher in what is now Barcelona, Spain. One side of the tomb pays tribute to her royal status, the other to her years living as a widow in a monastic community. She founded the Royal Monastery of St. Mary of Pedralbes in 1327 and retired there after her husband, James II of Aragon, died. And she spent about 40 years there and never formally took religious vows, but had some power there as well. So new research has been done on her tomb and other burials around this church. The excavations reveal that Elisenda was interred in a wooden box. And it's so grand how she's buried in the church, but underneath all of that is just this little wooden box. There the scientists are. Oops. There they are, opening the wooden box, see what's inside. The outfit she was buried in, befitting a nun. They recovered fragments of silk woven with gold thread, which is more in line with a kind of a high-ranking individual. They said that the research contradicts earlier theories about the layout of her tomb, that the side of the tomb depicting her in royal regalia faces the church, Inside the church, the other opens into the cloister, which is the covered walkway. They thought that her tomb had straddled a wall between the presbytery and the cloister, but they've now debunked that. The tomb actually consists of two back-to-back sections separated by a small wall, allowing the queen a double immortality as a powerful sovereign facing the church and as a humble penitent facing the cloister. Then they looked at her skeleton and they found that she was relatively tall for this era, about 5'3". She was about 70 when she died. She had multiple bone diseases that likely caused her a lot of pain, and they took some DNA samples from the remains in hopes of learning more about her life and her lineage. She was born in 1292. She became James II's fourth wife, never had any kids, so they say her power within the palace would have been limited. Widows who were not the mother of a future king usually met a rather sad end because they were sidelined at court. But she managed to maintain this degree of influence in the kingdom. She did not stand on the sidelines. So, in addition to the queen, they excavated or opened 7 other graves, uncovering a total of 24 people, including nuns and noblewomen. They say that project represented an opportunity to study the physical characteristics of these people and everything surrounding the funerary gestures and burial systems in these communities. Some of the deceased were buried in sarcophagi, others were wrapped in textiles. In some cases, the graves that were believed to have belonged to specific individuals held the skeletons of entirely different people. One of them was supposed to be a medieval knight, but instead contained the remains of 3 infants and 2 young women. So, very interesting what they opened up and what they found in there, not as advertised on the top of the church. Another archaeology story, this one out of France. After the fire and the rebuilding at the Notre Dame Cathedral, the researchers have been digging into the city's past, right around the old church. And they've uncovered some pretty interesting things. They have been, you can see here, been digging through medieval layers and Roman layers. And it's all kind of laid out there for people to see. This is ahead of the planned redevelopment around the Notre Dame Cathedral, which reopened, I should say, late in 2024 after the fire heavily damaged the church in 2019. And now there's a move to add 160 new trees to the surroundings to transform the underground parking lot into a visitor center and some other things. But before they do all that, they've had to get archaeologists there to investigate and protect the remnants of the city's past hidden in the ground below. They think this is going to take about 8 months. So far, they've dug at least 13 feet beneath the surface, right near where people line up to go into the cathedral every day. They have recovered hundreds of objects from various eras, some dating back to the Roman occupation of the city about 2,000 years ago. Some people are saying, this is crazy. You come to see the cathedral, and then you realize there's a whole nother city right underneath your feet. In the 4th and 5th centuries, this area was home to a Roman settlement. From the 6th to the 10th centuries, it housed a Merovingian and Carolingian grain pits. In the Middle Ages, it was full of medieval houses divided by a single street. And researchers have discovered the cellars of those homes and latrine pits used for collecting human waste and trash. They have uncovered shards of medieval pottery with reddish markings, coins burying Roman Emperor Constantine's face, They've uncovered animal bones and metal pieces and jugs and cups. And as they remove each object, they send them to the archaeology lab for further conservation and study. They're still cleaning and analyzing and carbon dating and reconstructing all of these artifacts. They discovered 800-year-old iron staples holding together stone blocks in the walls as well. And those digging beneath the church found two mysterious lead coffins. One belonged to an 83-year-old high priest who died in 1710, the other containing the remains of an unknown horseman. They think it may have been a man named Joachim du Bellay, a French Renaissance poet who died in 1560. They found pieces of the cathedral's original 13th century rood screen, which is a decorative partition separating the choir from the nave, which still had some traces of the original paint. They pulled out sculptures and remnants of the 19th century brick pipe underground heating system. I mean, they're finding so much. Should have put in the trees a long time ago. They would have found all this stuff. Okay, from archaeology to current building, check out this. This is the world's largest blanket fort. It was constructed in Las Vegas and it was done by high school students in Nevada, Las Vegas area. And it has now achieved Guinness World Record status. It is confirmed, this blanket fort, to cover an area of more than 14,000 square feet, 14,103 square feet. The fort was designed by the students from the West Career and Technical Academy. They constructed it at the Desert Breeze Community Center. They had a lot of volunteers coming to help out. They say it was much more than about just breaking a world record, but more about bringing the community together, creating memories and kinship, and raising awareness for the needs of children and caregivers in foster care. They did send someone from the Guinness World Records out there who has confirmed this structure is large enough to break the record for the largest blanket fort. The previous record set in South Carolina in 2024 was 12,291 square feet. This one is 14,103. They had some rules too. You could not have any gaps in the fort larger than 1 inch. All sheets had to touch the ground. The inside had to be spacious enough for a person to comfortably sit in. And there it is, the world's largest blanket fort. There is a private island in California that is for sale. And shockingly, it's kind of affordable. Now, I don't know why you would want it, but it's $39,000. 39 grand. It's in the Delta. It is one of a series of small islands in this waterway. It spans 5.6 acres, and according to the real estate agent selling it for $39,000, it offers lots of building opportunities. You have to check with the San Joaquin County regulators to make sure that there are no restrictions. But in the past, the real estate agent said people usually look to use the land for everything from campgrounds to jet ski rental hubs to marijuana grow sites, hunting clubs, fishing destinations. The potential, he says, is endless. I don't know. They say that listing, according to SF Gate, there's another picture of this little island, came to market this week. And already a lot of people are interested. $39,000. He said it could be someone who just wants to say they own an island. It's a triangular piece of land, as you can see here, and it's in the White Slough area of the Delta. A lot of fishing going on here, a lot of bird watching. You can only get to this island by boat. The current owner of this island, which I don't think has a name, bought it in 2007 for $17,500. The plan was to develop it, but they never got around to doing that. So, oh, Do we have any need for this island, you guys? 39,000 for this little triangle of island. I think the only need I would have for it, here's another picture of it, is to protect it. I don't want to see something built on there. I know a lot of people have their little hunting clubs and beach clubs in the Delta, but in this waterway where you have so many birds and so much wildlife, build on that, have boats docked all around it. Hopefully, the person that buys it wants to participate in the conservation of this place. 39,000 isn't it's that's cheap for a private island. There must be all kinds of restrictions to build on it. Yeah. All right. It is time for Waterfall Wednesday. We take our collective deep breath. And here we go. Today, we are going to Hungary to look at the best waterfalls in this area. And plus, I found a couple extra. This one is called the Roman Bath Waterfall. So this is supposed to be the top 6 waterfalls in Hungary, but I found a couple more. I couldn't not show them to you. The Roman Bath Waterfall is at the top of the list of beautiful waterfalls in Hungary. This gushing water splashing through the rocky stairs is a spectacular view. You can take a tour from the gorge on top, and you'll see the amazing view of the Roman Bath waterfall from above. The water, they say, makes its way through the rocks, and the stream continues to narrow down this gorgeous vertical cliff. That is the Roman Bath waterfall. The next one is called the Zakadek waterfall. This one looks like quite the hike. There it is, the Zakadek. You can climb right up this one. It is a paradise for hikers. It's a one-day round trip from the city of Domos, a place for adventure, fun, and peaceful times. Beautiful, crystal clear water falling from a decent height, looking mesmerizing when the sun's rays fall on it. You can either sit, relax, and watch this beauty, or be one of the hikers headed up to enjoy the best hiking of your life. They say in both cases, you'll enjoy the journey as well as the destination. Yeah, it looks like you get to hike right up the waterfall. That's a new one. There are several waterfalls found in the Buck National Park. Here's a picture of the park. Here's a picture of one of the waterfalls that I found in the park. Pretty nice. This area is one of the biggest, best national parks in Hungary. It is famous for the wild animals and other adventures that are contained within, and it has this beautiful waterfall, which attracts thousands of tourists merely for its beauty. The waterfall is so pretty, you can spend a whole day with your family, friends, kids, just by sitting beside it or having fun at the lake where the water falls and gets collected in this area. And here's another picture of the lake. Pretty nice. The next one on the list is the Devil's Mill waterfall. And this one is a hidden gem. It's located at the perfect spot, very accessible, surrounded by vast meadows and greenery, picnic areas. There's a cooking facility. The sound of the water acts like music for the ear, and they say it's the best place for nature lovers. Getting away from the chaos of urban areas sure looks peaceful. The next one on the list looks like a very powerful waterfall. It's called the Zavina waterfall. It's a gusher. It is the largest waterfall in Hungary, constructed during the period of the Palace Hotel. So this is a man-made waterfall. They say it's one of the best in Hungary. The water falls from about 20 meters high to the ground. It freezes in the winter, so the site, they say, looks like a fairy tale in the winter. It's very kid-friendly. You can enjoy a visit. The big play, there's a big playground here and little caves, the real attraction for kids. Meanwhile, they say you can have other adventures like hiking, or you can just hang out, watch the kids play. So that is the Savina waterfall, a human-created waterfall, the largest waterfall in Hungary. The next one is called the Ilana waterfall. It's about 10 meters high. And if you want to go to this one, you need some good hiking boots because it is kind of far out there, hard to get to. 200 to 300 meters are muddy after rain or during winters. There are some paved roads and some forest, but this waterfall is considered a holy place according to the Christian community. After 2 to 3 kilometers, you reach the source where you get drinkable, sparkling water. The greenery and beauty of this place, according to traveltriangle.com, will attract you, and you'll want to spend more and more time under the blue sky and in the lap of nature. I like to sit in the lap of nature. Why not? They say it's a wonderful time, but to make sure that you treat it with the reverence it deserves. And here are the other two that I found that were not on the list. But look how cool. First, you have this one. This is also in Buck National Park, and I'm not sure what kind of cave this is or where it goes into or what building that is, but I thought the waterfall was beautiful. And it also is in the Buck National Park area. So there's that one. And then here's another one. You can see this waterfall kind of tucked into a cave in the middle of a mountain. It's the Cycla Forest in Hungary. And I wish I had more information on this waterfall because it looks really, really special. But yeah, I thought this was cool. I'm trying to look up more information to see if I can't get anything. But look at how clear the water is. You can see the rocks and then the waterfall inside that opening in the distance. Really cool. Not a lot of information on the Cycla Forest in Hungary. That is Waterfall Wednesday. I hope that it was calming and relaxing as we watch the election results trickle in today and the votes are counted. Have a little relaxing waterfall to go along with your election coverage day. Thank you again to Jim for this $5 super sticker. So kind. The way you support the show, that's from the voting, that you're doing, that many of you are doing, from the clicking of the like button every day. Thank you for spending your time here. The ways you support the show fill my heart. As they say, they fill the cup every day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who contributes to PayPal. A lot of people have just set up a recurring monthly contribution to this show. Hugely appreciated. Today, Wes came through with a contribution. So did Carol S. So did Rhonda A. Linda G. So Wes, Carol, Rhonda, Linda, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Jim Slayton, for that contribution that you see on the screen as well. You guys are super awesome. Tomorrow, Mo Kelly is in for Mark Thompson. David Katz will be in. And tomorrow is also the Nikki Maduro show. And Trivia Thursday. So a lot going on. And I am looking forward to sharing it with you all. But until we meet again, make it the very best rest of your Wednesday. Bye, everybody.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.
And I see you. Thank you so much, Glenn, throwing in a couple Australian dollars. Very cool. Thank you. And thank you for the nice message. Looking forward to having you on the show next week, Glenn. You're awesome. So glad you found the show and have become part of the After Party community.